Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's Retail Reimagined. My name is Maher. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game, the podcast where we talk about retail. I'm your host, Maher. I don't ever introduce myself normally, but that is my name, Maher, and I'm the host of this podcast. And I like to have on all kinds of different people who are involved in the retail space. It's super wide, super vast, and retail is omni-channel now. And I have someone on the podcast with me who I've known for a little while. Never had the pleasure to meet in person, but hopefully someday I will. And his name is George Reed. He's infamous on the internet, let's just say that. And he runs an agency called George's Blog, helping brands to grow. I'll let you define that a little bit more, but very similar to what I do. There's a good amount of people that are in the space that do that. But you're doing some really interesting things with content curation. You also said best, laziest owner. Anyway, I think you're doing some cool stuff, and I'm happy to have you on because I do think you have a really cool perspective, and the way that you look at things is different than most agency owners, which I will characterize typically as go, 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 grow at all costs. That's the end, and that's not how you look at things.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for the introduction and for dealing with my delays into getting this through, which
No worries.
turns out was a benefit in the end. Yeah, I think that's probably a good starting point of how you want to run an agency. Lots of people ask the question, but I see from a lot of your side of the pond, I guess you would say, if there's a mindset towards running these things, and I'm not sure I completely share it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, his time in Australia maybe made me more relaxed. I'm not sure, but yeah, I see this American mindset.
Is it more relaxed there? More relaxed than being in the UK?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they don't work as hard. Like my fiance, she was at Amazon for 8 years and went from UK Amazon to Australia Amazon, and you can see some companies take the culture with them. So what she saw was Amazon was very much the same as it is in the UK, Europe, and the US. So they were still animals with everything they did, whereas friends of hers worked at Salesforce, and he was quite a chill bloke, and he would take calls at the beach straight from the offset and was very relaxed, and that wasn't really an issue. And they certainly viewed it more as a fitting your life or your work around your life rather than the other way around. And that is the Australian mindset. Whether it creeped into me, I'm not sure. Maybe I was just lazy to begin with.
I don't really actually think you're lazy. But I kid because you said it. So I took your own words and pushed them back on you. But maybe that guy was just taking some herbal supplements and he's really chilled out. That could be it too. I think the thing that so I'm an agency owner. I get really frustrated because I enjoy the sales process a lot. That's not why I get frustrated, though. But I get frustrated because I talk to brands all the time who are looking for help. And you can imagine when I talk with them, what I hear almost every single time when we talk about working with an agency. I had a bad experience with an agency. And it's also kind of just like life, I had a bad breakup. Okay, well, that's going to happen in life. But I do think that there are there's a mentality of grow at all costs and take on almost any client, even if they're not a good fit. And sometimes we have clients that we bring on and we end up parting ways because it really is not a good fit. They're not looking at Amazon the way we think makes a lot of sense. They're maybe looking for, maybe they want to bring it in house and they want to try it on their own. I don't always recommend that for most people because it's super complex, but you can't win them all. But I do think that there is the growth at all cost mentality that ends up hurting not just the agency in the long run, but it hurts that relationship with that brand. And something I've said before is now if they want to work with someone, there's a hurdle or a barrier of trusting that new agency that was not there before.
And I guess there hasn't necessarily been any reason for you to focus entirely on retention as an agency, or many agencies, because there is such a large volume of sellers or brands who need support. The mindset could be for many agency owners, it's not you or I, but for many that I'll find another, and that's fine. The point is highlighted by the fact that all agency owners and consultants in this space are friendly with each other and certainly don't view each other as competition per se, because there is so much work out there for us, and that creates an interesting situation of, well, it's fine, I can go and get another client, and we have plenty of people who come from the biggest agencies or the biggest tools or software providers, and they haven't had a good experience. Maybe their mindset is you're such a small number that it doesn't really matter if we lose you, even if you are doing 100 grand a month or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of an Amazon mentality of we've got plenty of people coming our way. You are a small cog, even if you are doing a couple million, 10 million, like there's the next person that's coming behind you and they know that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you know, I don't go on this grow at all cost mindset. I see it massively. I think there's an ego play here of there's plenty of people who update their headlines on LinkedIn, say I now run an X million dollar or I manage X million in revenue or spend or whatever. There's a lot of ego metrics that get thrown around. And then I'm seeing this grow at all costs for the last 3, 4 years. We're hiring again, we're doing this again, and that's fantastic. But I kind of always come back to, are you hiring for the right reasons? Do you want just the ego metrics, or are you looking to run a business that you really enjoy running and it gives you what you want out of it? So I would never take on a client that would mean my team are stretched and there's more stress and pressure because I don't want that business. But also, if you take on that client, then your team are not having a very good time. I care more about my team members than clients quite often because the reality is the team member, in my opinion, I want them to be there in 5 years. And with the agency model, you're not always retaining clients for 5 years just because things change.
And you take care of the people on your team, they're going to take care of the clients. When the vibe internally is where it needs to be, I really feel like that reflects externally. It doesn't, if the vibe is bad internally, it doesn't always reflect externally, but it will, I think, cause something to break, and that will ultimately negatively impact your client.
Yeah, like I prioritize the two of the original guys who have been with me for a very long time, Prem and Amanchu. I obsess over building them up in the market as well, which may shoot myself in the foot. I'm sure they get approached all the time, and the other team members as well. But those two who have been there the longest, I obsess over ensuring that they have just a brilliant experience at work. And that could be anything from me going over to India and spending time with them to forcing them to take holidays because I know there is a cultural challenge where they weren't taking holidays. So putting something in place to ensure that they just actually go and do something that you or I may see as a very enjoyable part of life, going away for a weekend with the missus or whatever you choose to do with your time off, and that treating them as well as possible is leading to they look after the biggest clients. The biggest clients are having the greatest success because they they want to just do the best, and that there is that knock-on effect. They care greatly about the future of the agency. So there is a knock-on effect, but I'm just focusing all my energy primarily on them employees having the most enjoyable time at work and loving where they are, rather than going, oh, my head's up above the pit to go, okay, where's my next 10 employees coming from and 50 clients? I don't mind growing slow, because when you go slow, things don't break as often.
That's an interesting way to look at it. There's definitely, when you're growing fast, there is a move fast mentality. So if something breaks, you got to fix it. Do you always have the best approach to fixing that thing? And something I've heard, I told you before that we had totally changed all of our operations, and that meant people left the organization, which I was okay with because they weren't really on board with what we were doing. Much leaner team, but much stronger. Everyone really knows what they're doing. There's plenty of work to go around, but still capacity that people can take on. A lot better communication. We've just changed how we have operated, and we've actually put more of the systems in place that will help us to not break as we grow. And so I think the words like strategy and system can be kind of ethereal. They're not as tactile, but when I think about a system, it could be as simple as, we do this meeting on this day where we talk about this. We have this meeting on this day where we talk about this. This department gets together. We put everything in this software, and that's our database for stuff. And then we build stuff as we go. And I know people who hate the term process. Like, I don't, you just put a bunch of high, really smart people in their roles, and then let's have just let them, go and operate. But I don't think that can always be the case, and there's not always going to be people who want to have which is crazy. But I've noticed that some people want more structure, where they're saying, I know to do this, 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 this. They it's not that they don't want freedom, but they want a little bit more guidance and direction than the person who wants to go in and have freedom. And creating that system and that process, I'm not talking about, all right, eat your breakfast at 8:30, go to the bathroom, wipe your ass with 2 pieces of toilet paper. Like, I'm talking about just, here's what you do, then this, go, and you fill in the gaps on stuff. But that has been just incredible for us, and it does mean that, yeah, maybe we grow a little bit slower, but as we do grow, we're going to take on the right people, and the people are actually going to be satisfied, and then we get good feedback like, hey, you made this easy for us, or this, we feel successful because of how our interactions have been.
But it's also the business you want to run. I think so many agencies perhaps become a slave to the KPIs, a slave to the clients, a slave to chasing this number of, I want to hit 1 million a year ARR, or 5 million, or whatever it is. I want to be valued at this, and be able to put the post on LinkedIn saying I sold out for X number of figures. I think there's so much of that. But then I will read posts all the time of people who haven't been on holiday for 2 years, or haven't been traveling, or haven't done whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm going, well, what's the point in this all? I'm 31. I didn't want to spend the last 6 years building an agency, having a horrible time doing it, and kidding myself that it was fine because I was earning loads of money, or whatever that amount or KPI you're chasing is. The processes thing, yeah, I mean, I agree entirely. I think creating it as simple as possible, and then just following it, and then iterating as you go. Mine was probably slightly different to you, because I would say you're more skilled with Amazon, particularly now. Maybe on day one when I left Amazon, had some good Amazon knowledge, and I learned a lot in those years following it. But now the skill set for my team is far superior to mine. Amancio and Prem have done it for 8 years doing Amazon ads. I'm not going to be a fool and try and meddle with that. I'm just saying, you do whatever you want to do. You build your own processes, and they basically tell me what to do now, which I like. The only thing I ask for is one 30-minute meeting a week with the whole team. They tell me what they learned that week and any wins, and then I just let them do what they need to. And I don't know, that works for them. I don't dictate hours to be in the office or online, providing it's roughly similar to mine, so we can chat for a couple of hours a day. That's fine. But that process, which is not really a process, I guess it is, of just letting them do what they want, is proving to work really well. Himanshu comes up with stuff all the time to save the clients kind of effort, whether that's a bulk sheet, macro, or whatever it is. And I haven't told them to do that. That just comes down to, I guess, the previous discussion on hiring the right people. And you have some issues yourself, yeah.
The personality and the drive that someone has, like that's hard to manufacture or even coach. There really has to be, because if the person's not like that, they'll probably get exhausted at coming up with new things or new ideas. And those are some of the people that just think about things differently. I love those kind of people because they're willing to be wrong. Like, don't worry about looking stupid. Worry about not coming up with the right answer. Like, I'd rather you venture what you think is a stupid answer, but it actually gets us to the end point maybe a little bit quicker because we're not reserving ourselves, maybe because of pride. And I think insecurity and pride have a very strong relationship together, but you're worried about looking stupid. Like, who cares? Just let's come up with an answer together.
I love it when they tell me that they've had meetings without me. I get a small bit of joy that I haven't told them
Yeah.
to go have meetings. They go, oh, I spoke to so and so about that the other day. We had a 30-minute chat about it. I absolutely love it. Of how can we be more efficient with our reporting, or how could we bulk update certain bids, whatever it is, in a more efficient manner, and they're having meetings on their own, and then you're just bringing it to me. I absolutely love that, and I wouldn't say I'm a great boss because that's happened. It's just it's been the right person, or they've been the right people, and maybe you interview for that. I'm not sure. Maybe I got lucky, to be honest, but that's kind of evolving.
It's probably a mixture of all that stuff, but I think you talking about forcing people on your team to go on a holiday, making sure that they're taken care of, people recognize that and they are willing to go to bat for you when you take care of them. And in some cases, yeah, could someone go somewhere and make a lot more money? Potentially. Is it worth it to them? I think people are realizing, we don't have people that are necessarily working at a company for 40 years and give it their all and then they retire and then they live their life. I want to live my life now. I am going on a holiday weekend with my wife tomorrow. So to celebrate her final birthday celebration.
And we're recording on a Monday as well, right? So when you say tomorrow,
by weekend, I mean, yeah, we're tail end of a new decade for her, which has been interesting. But I want to live my life now. I don't want to wait until I'm retired to go see things. So it's not that I'm not working hard, because I mean I do spend a lot of time doing stuff, but also I want that opportunity to go see my daughters play or to spend time on a family vacation. And sometimes work does cut into that. If I'm honest, it kind of depends upon the season as well. I don't know that I fully believe in balance alone. I think it's just things come in season. Sometimes you're busier, sometimes you're not. But people are when they see you take care of them, they're willing to go to bat for you, and they're willing to say, hey, I like the vibe here. And even if I could make, an extra 10 grand a year doing this other thing, is that really worth it to me? Is it worth my sanity? And I think most people now would probably say no.
I mean, on that, you can include more financial gain. I believe in comparison to the India average wage, the team get compensated incredibly well.
Sure.
But I'm certainly aware that it's a lot less than someone with 8 years Amazon ads experience in America, where I believe you've got to pay something like 140K to get something like that on an annual salary. So that's where my model works. I think what I introduced a year ago now to the team, which has worked really well in terms of wanting them to stay with me for as long as possible, but also giving them more um, skin in the game, is giving them a percentage of our revenues and then the opportunity to cash it in on the 12 months up to that date, or in 6 months' time, or in 12 months' time, or in 18 months. They can cash it in on those 6 month windows. The theory being that they really want those big clients to stay along, or they really want to keep posting great content so we attract more brilliant clients and our revenue goes up because they're taking a percentage of it whenever they want. And each year I look to then give them more and more and more, but they've still kind of, it's like a share. You can cash it in whenever you want. That I think I was really pleased with that. It was on top of everything else, but you can see the mindset shift in those last 12 months where certain people have stepped up another level
Mm.
because they really want the whole thing to succeed because they're then benefiting. I mean, call it a bonus scheme. You can make other little systems for that, but I really like that mindset. And from an agency perspective, it does help me retain my best and employees.
I think there's a reason why people that are in sales have a percentage or a commission because it does drive them a little bit more. There's an episode in the American Office that I remember actually watching the original when it first came out and loving it and hating the American one. I was like, no, that's not the original one. But I've grown to love that one very, very much, and it changed to be a little bit more American because so many people say, "Ouch!" Like the first season is rough, but like I go back and watch that, and I'm like, it's pretty incredible how awkward it is, and I kind of revel in that. But anyway, I digress. There's an episode where Jim gets capped on his commissions. He's like, you realize I have no incentive to do anything now, right? They're like, just think of it as you don't like the rule, but it's something you got to live with. And Gabe talks about how there's nudity at his gym and it makes him uncomfortable, but he deals with it anyway. And Jim's just like, yeah, this is not going to work for me. There's a reason why that financial monetary component has an impact on people. And I do believe in compensating well too. If I'm honest, I'm not making what I would make at a large agency, just not the way that we're structured, maybe in time, but it's a little bit different business, and again, more flexibility and more. It's not a grow at all cost mentality. There's definitely a focus on quality of life for those people.
Yeah, and that mine was born out of reading Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week and then just adopting those principles really early on, probably too far in some cases. But then, how can I pass those learnings onto the team? And the big one was going over there in March this year, and just chatting to them more about maybe trips that I've done, and unfortunately they haven't done that. But then the mindset shift. So one of the team members is fluent in French, and so is his partner. And now he's going, I want to go spend 3 months in France now. And maybe that was never a thing before.
Yeah.
He always liked the idea of doing it, but then presenting the opportunity of please go do that. As far as I'm concerned, you can manage PPC accounts anywhere in the world. So please go
Does
work
not
in
matter.
France. Can I help you in any way with that? Let me know. But so yeah, I mean, educating on that front as well. But yeah, maybe we've gone quite a long way away from the focus of an Amazon podcast. But there we are.
Well, I will say this: this is less about Amazon and more just about retail in general, and there's a lot of aspects to that. So there's no problem in my mind, and it sounds like maybe George, the world traveler, needs to have another separate business venture where he talks specifically about his adventures abroad.
Maybe, I don't know.
Another podcast.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I should probably step up my own podcast eventually and get that going again, and just go right. It's focused on travels abroad and how to work abroad, but I'm not sure about that.
There's been a lot of, if we tie it back into some of the more strategic stuff on the Amazon specific side. I have a take on how things have been. I don't know, maybe the past year or two, but I'm curious. I don't want to preface that with your opinion with my opinion. So, not that I'm just that influential that you would totally change your mind, but what are some of the things that even think back just over the past 12 months. I know people say Amazon changes all the time. I don't know how true that is. There are always changes and there are things that are evolving, but it's not like every single day Amazon says, all right, this is new, this is new, this is new. And there might be things that come out, but it's not like it totally changes the trajectory. Anyway, I said I wouldn't preface it, and then I did. Over the last 12 months, what do you think are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen brands encountering? And in turn, that's what your agency is encountering too.
I think it would be foolish not to talk about ads, as we can see even from their results recently, their quarterly results, that's jumped massively. It was something like 25% year on year. And for me, I foresee them continuing this trend of just investing in that as a resource for brands on the platform. We are seeing, you have advertising experts you can chat with in further detail. My team, if you want. I'm not an expert in the space, they are. But you can see just what I call levers, more and more levers coming out, things for people to utilize at their disposal. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, but they keep rolling out. It keeps becoming more comprehensive. So there are more opportunities. We can see that with the audits that we do. There are more and more holes appearing because people are struggling to keep up with all of those opportunities. And at Unboxed the other week, we saw that as well. Do I think they will lean into the AI piece further? We saw it unbox some of the image piece. Do I think it's rubbish? Yes, you may as well use another tool for now because
Yeah.
they're not going to be as advanced as your Dolly or your Midjourney or whatever to create banner ads. But I think that will be a big shift. In one of the big problems for people at the moment is, yes, they can turn on the ads, but how do they test creative? If you look at social ads, historically, it's how can we test an array of different ad styles or types, and whether that's a different type of image or a different type of video or different text. I think the brands that utilize the new tools that are coming out, whether you use Amazon's AI or someone else's to get different graphics out, that's something that's evolved in the last 12 months. Amazon as a whole, I don't know, I think it probably still comes back to the basics are still there. The big brands still do the same three simple things very well. If they've got the operational base, as in they stay in stock, they're in prime, they nail their branding, they have a great brand presence to convert, and then they focus on ads to drive traffic next. I'm not sure about the influencer piece. I think TikTok seems to be running away with that a little bit, but I can see, I had the idea a while ago of them really trying to push into that more, knowing how shit their review system is, as it just does not work anymore. And they keep trying to play with it, but I think the solution personally is in voices of authority. And you've got I use the example of MKHB, whatever his name is on YouTube. If that guy tells you to buy an iPhone case, you're buying that iPhone case. You know it's good,
Yeah.
even if it is 20% more. And you would overlook thousands of reviews on page one and Amazon Choice badges because it's got the MKHB badge. So I'm intrigued to see how they push that further, but ultimately I don't see it being a platform for people to consume content. I more see them partnering with big names and having their own kind of badges, and there being a lot more badges. So you might have the tech badge, or you might have a whatever badge. That would be interesting to explore. In terms of external traffic, or no, that was one point actually. In terms of the storefront, I think storefront's going to be interesting to see evolve, and we see a lot of success driving traffic to storefronts with higher average order value and through cross-selling, etc. I always like that there's no competition on the storefront, but I feel it's still limited. The impact, not the impact, the creativity, the bespokeness to your storefront is still quite limited. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves further for people to really show off their brand a little bit more. And what we can see from your Shopify sites, how custom they are in comparison to an Amazon storefront, which are pretty much all the same. So we're interested to see how much more they push that. They have pushed it a little bit recently with some ad types and whatnot, and some of the features in the dashboard. We're seeing a lot more data, which is good. I'm really liking the new style of data, so more data becoming available. Some tools probably get shut down because of it, as Amazon are just giving you better data. So yeah, I waffled there for 3 minutes, and I don't think I've let you influence me. So what have I missed?
I'm glad you didn't let me impact you too much. Honestly, a lot of those things are great. The more levers thing I think is so true. If you had done advertising even 2 years ago, and you were to go in now and look, there is so much more targeting capability. And I've seen that majority of people are leaning only on sponsored products. I think I've heard a figure that like 80% of spend is going towards sponsored products. And there is nothing more powerful than a really strong SPV. If you can run a good sponsored brand with video that disrupts well, it can be super, super powerful, and it's in search, so it can help to drive your ranking. But it's so disruptive in a great way if you do it well. And so I think that alone is big. I think that we've seen this crossover of basically the DSP engine going to search with all the stuff that we can do with sponsored displays now. And I would just encourage people to experiment with that stuff, because it's not, probably won't know, just like with sponsored products early on, you won't know it's going to work until you test it out. But there's so many targeting capabilities.
But I want to see more of you have custom landing pages when you build out your Shopify store, and you build an ad that directs to a custom landing page, and you might have 5 custom landing pages, and that ad solves one problem based on the search or the whatever you're looking to create. And then you're driving it through to solve that problem that you've talked about. I'd like to see that a lot more from storefronts. I kind of coined the phrase the other week of kind of A+ storefront pages, where it's focused on one exact product, and these exist, but people don't create them. But then you've got that rich content. You might even have variations of that. So ASIN A dash whatever, the problem that you're looking to solve, because it could solve 3 different problems or be for 3 different customers. So then your searches could tie into that and drive traffic through to that subpage, which tackles the one problem. So if it's agent cream, it could be agent cream for males, agent cream for females. It's the same cream, but you just use different content on each of those subpages.
Are you saying that my face looks old?
No, I was saying mine looks old, particularly on this left eye.
Oh, your
here.
face does not look old.
Yeah, like
oh, stop
bag-like. It's really getting bag-like on a windy day. It's awful. Like if I go for a good hike, it just gets saggier and saggier. Like
I think you should lean into that, George. I think you should lean into the baggy eyes. Create a product around it. There you go. I think what you're saying is really interesting. It's using custom creative like people are able to do on their Shopify site, and being able to flex that a little bit more on Amazon. There's always going to be a lack of being able to influence the developer side of things. Amazon will almost always be in control of the UX UI, but I love what you're saying. Being able to take a custom landing page, and instead of creating 2 different ASINs, you literally are able to create 2 different opportunities for the same product and target different people. And then you've got different ad campaigns. If Amazon's looking to sell more advertising spots, that's a great opportunity to get people to have different creative. And then you can say, okay, well, now we've got ad spots for both of these things. That grows the whole category. If you're thinking about how to get more money from brands, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and you know what? It in theory increases conversion rate, because if you're offering, let's say, for argument's sake, like SPF, like a facial moisturizer or whatever you want with sun protection, you can drive that to a woman's page or a male page or whatever customized page you want for that search, and in turn create content which speaks to that individual person rather than speaking to everyone. The classic case of market to everyone, market to no one. I think one of the challenges is, and why people aren't utilizing it, is because it's just effort. You need some design team resource. I mean, this is one of the reasons, it's a shameless plug, but why I made like the design kit and the templates, and why I've got the team at the moment taking all the A+ templates we made and making them into storefront subpage templates. So it's just going, right, let's just make a storefront, which is basically an A+ page. And then you can come grab that and implement it very quickly, because that is the challenge. You've either got a design team, or you're having to drive your own team of freelancers to come up with those ideas, because that could be 4 subpages. They're all pretty much the same, You're just probably changing the lifestyle, changing the copy, but the
Yeah.
layout, the color palette, none of that is changing. So it really isn't too much work for a freelancer at a tenner an hour to get done, but it can impact greatly your success with the ads. So your design team and the ads team need to chat a little bit, but ultimately it's just a bit of organization.
Yeah, I mean the capability to reduce complexity on Amazon as it does, you said more comprehensive, which I do think is true. I also think that adds to some of the complexity in knowing what levers to pull when is what makes, someone who knows Amazon on the agency side, it can make them powerful if they're also a good communicator. If, you could maybe drive good results and not communicate well. I don't know that those things, I feel like the people that drive the best results are already probably communicating well too, because they're thinking about, wanting to keep or retain that client. But I could be wrong about that.
I was going to say, I view them as like the team as accountability partners at times. You want that ads manager to say, hey, I read this on LinkedIn or I consumed this where, and I'm telling you as a client, go make some of these sub pages for me. Let's run these experiments. This is what, maybe a good sub page looks like. You give them an example. Could you get your design team just to do that? I'll then set up the ad side. And they're pushing them rather than going, oh, I've just been told to do this. Now I'm going to go do it. That's what you want from
Yeah,
a good partner.
the accountability piece is huge. Like we need to be able to get on a call and say, hey, we still owe you this thing and we're going to get that to you by this time, and then doing it by the time, or saying, hey, this thing we turned into you, I honestly, I don't think that was the best work. And so we're going to redo it and come back to the table and do that. And being the first person to say that. And every time we have had to do that and just stepped up to the plate, most of the time, if not all the time, I hear, thank you. Or, hey, we appreciate that. It's never, kick rocks. Like it's typically a better response. So that accountability piece is also being able to come to them and say, hey, we talked about spending this much this month, but the budget you gave us was a lot smaller, and we're trying to drive these results here. There's accountability on both sides, but a lot of times it is the brand having to push the agency, even though the agency is getting paid. And that's why people have a bad experience. So many times people say, they collected their money and we didn't see the results. Someone told me that someone did creative that his kindergarten niece could have done, which I'm like, that's, I think maybe even said 3-year-old, which is pretty bad. So not that the 3-year-old couldn't be creative, but comparing that to an adult, probably not the best. But that was like his level of bad experience, was that someone did such a poor job. He thinks really, really young kid who didn't have much experience could have done better.
But yeah, you're right. But I think I speak to lots of brand owners and they still want to take on so much themselves. They'll happily have that Canva premium subscription and go, I can do this myself. And perhaps you can. I'm not doubting that in the slightest. And if you have support or templates or whatever, you can do it. And then you're doing the ads and then you're trying to do the operations. And my argument is always, focus on what you're very good at and also what you enjoy. I assume you came into running an Amazon brand to enjoy it. So I'm a huge believer in outsourcing, and if you're limited for budget, focus on what you're quite good at, but then ultimately find that freelancer on Fiverr or Upwork who can help you with just some basic stuff rather than trying to take it all on yourself and just doing an average job, particularly with the ad spend thing. I simply think it's too complex now. You can't follow a course to do ads
Nope.
successfully. It just doesn't work, particularly if you want to start scaling things. I would probably just go, if I was you, get a free audit from people every 3 months if you did want to continue it, and just
Yeah.
take the free audit and implement it. But still, you're probably going to get it wrong. You're going to waste money. You'd be better off with some support.
And is the time you're going to put into it going to get you the return you want? And like you said, if you want to scale it, are you just spending money to spend money? You're spending money that's actually driving that better organic placement, which is what ads is all about.
I mean, a lot of people don't even value their hour. We're having this
Yeah.
conversation here. Naturally, I'm going to send you a massive invoice because of my hourly rate, but
And I will pay it quickly.
and then you'll invoice me back because I've wasted your 40 minutes of time naturally. But the point I like to think of is no one looks at that hour and assigns a value to it. So if I'm spending an hour managing ads, does it actually cost me £50 in my time? If I can get someone to do that for what averages out at maybe £25 an hour or £30 an hour, have I then made money? There's a simple way of looking at it, and I'm not a smart person who's come up with that. I've stolen it from someone else, but the principle is there of focus on when you can offer the most value. You're not offering value to your company managing ads or doing that design work.
Yeah, 100%. Well, our time has come to a close, and I can't afford you anymore, if I'm honest. So tell people, George, if they want to know more about you and want to find out what you're doing, where should they look? In the bush? Should they look on the beach? World Traveler George, where can they find you?
Yeah, just look up. There are two things that we focus on. One is running ads for people, and that would be georges.blog, simple as. The other is helping people with their designs, AMZ Design Kit, where we look to provide templates and bespoke support to help those who want to get started with the design at a much faster rate.
Cool. Well, we will have show notes down below, if there is a down below, and you can find out more about George at georges.blog. Like you said, simple as. But that's our show, people. We don't have any more, so don't stick around because we're leaving right now. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry, then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon Marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice, that is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.